Look at Assyria, a cedar in Lebanon, with beautiful branches that shaded the forest. It towered on high. Its top was among the clouds. The tree grew large and strong. The top of the tree touched the sky and could be seen from anywhere on earth. As I was looking at those things in the vision while laying on my bed, I saw an observer, a holy angel, coming down from the heaven. He spoke very loudly and said, "Cut down the tree, cut off its branches, strip off the leaves, and scatter its fruit. Let the animals under the tree run away, let the birds in its branches fly away. But leave the stump and its roots in the ground with a band of iron and bronze around it. Let the man become wet with dew, and let him live among the animals and plants of the earth. Let him not think like a human any longer, but let him have the mind of an animal for 7 years." The observers gave this command. The holy ones declared the sentence. This is so all people may know that the Most High God rules over every kingdom on earth. God gives those kingdoms to anyone he wants, and he chooses people to rule them who are not proud. Since the stump of the tree and its roots were left in the ground, your kingdom will be given back to you when you learn that the one in heaven rules your kingdom. Cut down the trees, but leave the roots within the ground. Look, Assyria, a cedar in Lebanon. Its top was among the clouds. Cut it down. You know, it's amazing to me how blind we've been with things that have sat right in front of our faces the entire time. All those things that we didn't see before, but we see now, plain as day, and then we sit here and we ask ourselves how we ever even missed it. It's a crazy little world that we're living in, where everything we learn comes from television programming or sitting in a school desk, raising our hands and waiting in turn to speak, and memorizing exactly what's been taught to us or shown to us or told to be so, with never even once looking for ourselves. Sometimes I feel like we're living inside a Dr. Seuss book, where we're told this thing is this and that thing is that, and sadly, more truth comes from a cat in a hat. I don't know about you, but frankly, I'm tired. My eyes now see truth, and their lies have expired. Now I know that I cannot make you see through my eyes, and I cannot make you understand what my own mind already does. But one thing that I can do is hope, pray, and try. To me, it only makes sense that all things rock, derived from which once was living. To me, this goes back to the old saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? We should all know by now that the egg could never exist without the chicken first laying it. We also know that without the death of a tree or any other living organism, petrified wood could not exist. And neither could coal, and neither could amber, or opal, or quartz, or most other minerals, gemstones, and deposits that you find scattered about throughout the entire earth. Scientists push their theory that silica has to be existent within the breakdown of trees if it were actually at first once a tree, such as what you would find in petrified wood. But I would just like to ask this: how could silica, aka quartz, be broken down from a tree if being the first living organisms ever to have existed, possibly resulting in the absence of silica in the mountain ranges? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, they really love to tell you that whenever they have looked into a microscope and checked the samples coming from mountains, cliffs, buttes, so on and so forth, that all they could see was the absence of silica, but nothing else could they give you. No examples or reasoning as to why or how those samples were created, such as sandstone, limestone, basalt, and say looks nothing similar to petrified wood. And yet, sandstone is made of quartzite. And quartzite, my friends, comes from what? Yep, you guessed it, silica. I'm wondering if they're ever getting tired of chasing their own tails round and round and round, trying to make sense out of nothing at all because they got it all wrong from the get-go. Well, that is unless they're possibly trying to disprove the ultimate creator. And then I guess this kind of does make sense now, doesn't it? For the devil was a liar and the father of lies. Well, here's a good one. And I'm sure you can fact check it too, because apparently it's gospel truth. Buttes are tall, flat-topped, steep-sided towers of rock. Buttes were created through the process of erosion, the gradual wearing away of earth by water, wind, and ice. Buttes were once part of a flat, elevated areas of land known as mesas or plateaus. In fact, the only difference between a mesa and a butte is its size. Now, I just want to ask one more question. How did it come to be that through the process of erosion, or the gradual wearing away by earth and by water, did only certain portions of the land remain sticking straight up in the air, especially coming from a group of geniuses who also say that they don't believe that there ever was a flood? I mean, if that being the case, well then how on earth did this water erosion ever even occur? I don't know about you all, but I'm sensing a little bit of gaslighting going on here. I mean, you're kind of giving a backhanded statement, and I'm calling your bluff. No pun intended. You don't believe there was ever a biblical flood, yet we have all of these seashells that are in the desert. Then these geniuses, they came up with the idea that, well, they must have been trading back then, walking miles upon thousands of miles, over the rivers, through the woods, and then at last crawling through the desert. All just to have a meet and greet and say, hey, you feel like trading? And then when asked, well, how'd you find us? All to hear them say, oh, well, we heard your voices all the way on the other side of the world. So we just thought we'd drop in and say hello. Oh, and here's something to ponder. Anytime there's ever been an excavation done near or around these sites, it's amazing to me how that whole area remains in a solid form all the way down to its what? Oh yeah, root system. And they find what? Oh yeah, coal, amber, opal, and all sorts of other precious stones, including gold. Go ahead and take a look if you don't believe me. Just take a look. Google it if you'd like. And no need to even fact check it when the evidence is clear. Sadly though, I don't think their conscience is very clear. What you're looking at here is a national attraction and is known as Smith Rock. Smith Rock is located outside of Terrebonne, Oregon. They say that this is the result known as volcanic tuffs. Now, I want you to look closely and tell me if you believe this to be true, because what I see is ancient petrified cedar tree bark through and through. By the way, I also find the definition of volcanic tuff quite silly. In fact, they speak to us as if we're children. So the definition goes on as follows. Tuff is a type of rock made of volcanic ash ejected from a vent during a volcanic eruption. Following ejection and deposition, the ash is lithified into a solid. I mean, come on, a type of rock? You just really don't want to give what type of rock it is? I'm just a little confused here. Are we supposed to guess our way through this? I mean, it appears as so. When Googled, you will find a variety of other definitions given. In fact, here's another one that I find absolutely mind-blowing. What is tuff? Tuff is an igneous rock that's formed from the products of an explosive volcanic eruption. In these eruptions, the volcanic blasts, rock, ash, magma, and other materials from its vent, this ejects, travels through the air, and falls back to earth in the area surrounding the volcano. If the ejected material is compacted and cemented into a rock, the rock will be called tuff. Come on already. Look again at this video. Look at these images. Do these look like that volcanic magma and ash that supposedly erupted way up high in the sky and fell to earth? Literally just decided to compile from the very bottom up, and then at the very top said, you know what, I think I'm going to just taper it off right here at the end and make a peak. Give me a flipping break. This is ridiculous. especially when the peaks actually form multiple peaks and all around the same height, kind of like what would look like when, I don't know, a tree fell or got pushed over by some sort of enormous storm. And all around those volcanic tufts, quote unquote, it's just completely, I don't know, hollow in the middle. Kind of like what an old tree trunk would look like, eh? Call me crazy, but I don't think so. You see, Mother Earth doesn't play jokes on people. People play jokes on people. Mother Earth just calls it like it is. And here we all are tinkering with everything, with our beakers and our tables and our contents and looking for this and looking for that. I mean, really, when are we going to go back to just working smarter instead of harder? We make everything over the top, and then we listen to those that actually introduced everything to be over the top. And sadly, everything going as according to plan for them. They want you to believe and think that they are the only ones with the know-how, the only ones with the answers, and the only ones that can do the thinking for you, because Lord forbid you use your own mind. I mean, think about it. They've got you exactly where they want you, and exactly where they plan on keeping you, because what we've been thus far is obedient little children, obeying everything that they say. After all, this isn't a battle about who has the most authority. This is a battle for your soul. And if you've never been a believer in your Maker before, I would say now is a good time to start, because the evidence is in your face, and this goes back, way back, to ancient tablets. Yes, the same tablets that helped make up the Bible. But either way, the truth is in the pudding. Now, this seems like a good time to discuss why petrified wood has so many color variations contained within it. When defining petrified wood, it goes on to say red and pink colors are produced by the presence of hematite, a form of oxidized iron. Does this ring a bell at all? But leave the stump and its roots in the ground with a band of iron and bronze around it. With this in mind, now moving on to my next point. What is the Eye of the Sahara? And I think you know where I'm going with this. I'll start out by saying that they obviously don't know much about it and haven't came to too many really good or convincing conclusions in my own opinion. But in their own words, they think that the eye's formation began more than 100 million years ago, as the supercontinent Pangaea was ripped apart by plate tectonics. Now, I'm sorry, but I mean, just look at it. Given all these things I've just shown you, and even in their own definitions, is it not obvious what the Eye of the Sahara actually is at this point? I try to tell you that the circular rock formations starting from the inside and out is said that the inside rings and the rocks within them are much older than the rings within the outside. Everyone knows that the age of a tree is represented by its rings, and with the inner core of the tree being the oldest. And as each year that it grows, each ring represents new growth and another year for that tree. Could this possibly explain why the rocks in the middle of the Eye of the Sahara are much older than the outer rings of it? I mean, kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, doesn't this make sense versus the given theories and ideas that they've come up with, you know, the ones that tell us what is and what isn't, and we can't think for ourselves? The fact that they say, oh, well, it's possible that deep magmatic intrusion happened, or, you know, it was a meteor impact, or the structure of an asteroid impact. And here we just take their word for it, because we're not smart enough. We're too dumb. We'll never be good enough. We can't do it. Don't you understand what's going on here? Can't you see what they've been doing to us, and for thousands of years? It truly doesn't take a genius to figure this all out. All it requires are the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the voice to speak up and out. Can you see it? Are you seeing it all yet? Trust me, this isn't the only lie you've been told. There's plenty more. And you know what else? It sure would have been a heck of a lot easier when it came to making these, in particular structures, these ancient architectural designs, to be possibly carved more so from wood, like a tree stump or a log laying on its side, versus all of the other things that's been said, like chisels and hammers, horse and buggy, thousands and upon thousands of men, basalt, granite, blah blah blah, or possibly even the use of lasers with more advanced technology. I mean, really? Did we possibly overthink it? Or underthink it? Or did we just not think it at all? That's the real question. Because if you ask me, every bit of this is petrification and nothing more. And now I really have to wonder, maybe, just maybe, that's why they called this right here, Petra. Now, I guess I'll add one more thing since you all have stayed with me so far. And that one more thing would be pertaining to volcanism, or volcanoes themselves. Now, if any of you out there are farmers, or gardeners, or just have a green thumb in general, I'm sure and most certain that you're familiar with what composting is. Composting is the natural process of recycling organic matter, such as leaves and food scraps, into a valuable fertilizer that can enrich the soil. Anyone that's ever dealt with a compost pile is well aware that it can get extremely hot in the very center of it, and oftentimes can spontaneously combust. Keeping in mind that this is also the reasoning as to why this certain, in particular, fertilizer is used into making what some would call an explosive disaster, if you get my drift. For now, I'm only going to briefly touch on the topic of volcanism and the connection to trees, because this whole thing could be made into an entire series just by itself. Besides, by now, I'm pretty sure you're all very familiar with where I'm going with this. And yes, you guessed it. I believe that there's a strong connection and an extreme possibility that many of those ancient biblical trees are also what we see today and know as, yep, you guessed it again, volcanoes. Just think about it. These old ancient biblical trees living out their life, and then slowly, as life goes and everything drains from it, it wastes away and starts to decompose. And with its root system reaching deep within the earth, what you are left with is what is known also as lava tubes and the underground riverways. And I'm pretty sure we already touched on decomposition and composting piles. Well, when you have a gigantic, enormously sized tree decomposing, I'm pretty sure you're left with nothing but a solid mass of pure TNT, if you know what I'm saying. But we'll just leave that there for right now and pick up on the rest of it on another day. Until then, may true discernment come over us all and bless us with the gift of the eyes to see and the ears to hear, because I'm telling you, truth, that's what's going to set us free.